So we're here with Steve Fuhr from SciPhy Systems. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How has this year's MJ BizCon been for you thus far?
It's been excellent.
Yep.
We sell extraction equipment and build extraction labs.
Yep.
And I have talked to people from over a dozen countries.
Right.
Uruguay, Israel, Canada, Great Britain, all over the place. It's been interesting.
Cool. And how many times have you been to the show? Is this like...
This is my fifth or sixth BizCon.
And do you feel like there's a sort of bigger international presence now than from 5 years ago?
There's been a huge shift.
Right.
I mean, this year I was at the ICBC conference in Berlin, also at the Can Exec conference in Toronto.
Right.
And there's a lot of international presence there, obviously, but this is the biggest international presence I've seen at any BizCon.
Really? Awesome. So in terms of the countries that you're working in, you're working with a number of different sort of, well, tell me more. What kind of, what's your sort of perspective on how different markets are shaking out right now?
It's a big question.
I know. Where are you most excited about for 2025? Where do you think the most potential lies?
If you'd asked me that question a month ago, I would have said the United States. I think that the current political climate will probably not lend itself to rescheduling in the United States. I think that there will be some relaxations of some laws and possibly some clamping down of others. I think a lot of nothing is going to happen in the U.S. And we're going to maintain the status quo of state by state until there's a bigger change. At the international level, if you look at Germany, it's kind of interesting. They legalized cannabis, or at least decriminalized it, but they didn't create any framework for growing it, processing it, or retailing it. So they essentially created the biggest black market, legal black market in the world.
True.
I spent a lot of time in Canada. I work with a lot of companies in Canada. As with most U.S. producer processors, we're struggling under unreasonable taxes and unreasonable laws, and it's very difficult to be profitable. So they're looking at the export markets. I think the exporting and I think medical grade products, true medical grade products, will start to come to the forefront in the next few years.
And you think, again, the vape and the concentrates market, that's going to be a big deal. I mean, again, in the UK, we don't really have that in a legal way for medical market. We still flower or kind of tinctures. It's still very much like extracts is almost like, well, unless you're kind of within the industry, you're, and I'd like to see more product, variety, I think. And I think, do you feel like that's happening in other countries that you're obviously speaking with or doing business in?
I think that every market goes through a predictable cycle. I had a marijuana venture article I wrote 2 years ago called Why the Smart Money Focuses on Processing. And I used the example of sugar. That it took 200 years for sugar to boom and bust and stabilize. Cannabis seems to go through that same cycle in about 2 years.
Right, okay.
And it happens in every market. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Concentrates go from 0% to about 50% in every market when you include edibles.
Right.
And concentrates are a much safer way to consume cannabis, especially edibles, because you're not getting the tar, you're not getting any of the carcinogens that happen when you burn flower.
Again, I think that I can see like things like cannabis beverages and like, I mean, there are gummies, but they're not good and they're highly illegal, and good quality stuff would sell very well. And I feel like that is almost key to getting that product variety is key to getting more kind of medical patients on board with it in a way.
Well, it's not just medical patients; it's engaging a greater population.
Yes. But again, I'm thinking about the legal routes in the UK. That's we're 40,000 patients. We're a nation of 67 million. Why aren't more people signing up? Again, various reasons, but I think from a kind of it needs to be in a form factor that people understand that we've been told for so long smoking's bad, vaping it's not so bad.
It is.
And edibles. Oh, I could get on board with that. I think it appeals to a lot of people, and I think there's opportunity there, but it's just not possible yet. But I suppose in other countries it is.
Well, Germany's banned them.
Right.
They've even banned hash.
Right. Okay.
Wow. Those, again, in a predictable cycle, will change.
Yes.
We could get technical and say that you absorb about 5 to 6 times more of the cannabinoids when you consume it edibly or through other methods. I think a lot of the delivery methods are going to start to move to translingual under the tongue. and transdermal patches.
Okay.
And sprays.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, is that sort of commonplace in some countries at the moment? Do you
It's
think?
commonplace in the markets that have matured.
Right. Okay.
So I always tell people when I go to the NECAN shows and I speak at various events that become a student
Yes.
of legacy markets.
Yes.
Look at what they're doing. Look at the trajectory that California, Oregon, and California, and now Michigan and Massachusetts and pick a state have gone through.
Yep.
We're currently involved in a New York license right now.
Right.
And they're going through that same predictable trend at the first stage.
Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's all to play for, but at the same time, again, to kind of summarize, you feel like it's all to play for, but it's still some way to go yet to kind of standardize things, because we're having these kind of, corrective sort of curves or whatever to make things, on an even keel until there's another dip or whatever it is.
I think the big thing that's going to solidify this industry is the kind of research and development that's gone into food production and pharmaceutical production. Mm-hmm. And what our company's focused on and what I've been working on is creating products where we take apart the cannabinoids and fractions, the different cannabinoids, the different terpenes, put them back in very specific formulas, and then start to do research tests on those for efficacy. And that's where you can say, is this really dangerous?
Yep.
Does it really interact with other drugs? And then we can make better decisions.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of it's always navigating that kind of slightly curved path, isn't it? And sort of following the meandering river until you get to the sea, and it's all just kind of like, there you go. I didn't even pre-plan that. There you go. Isn't that poetic? But no, you agree, so that's good. So thank you very much, sir. It's been great to speak to you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.